Welcome to Business Brief with me, Makanaka Masenyama. It is always a pleasure to have you on Muneza TV, where we give you news, programs, and many other exciting things for you. On this program, I'm humbled to have a businessman, member of the Presidential Advisory Council, known for entrepreneurship, mentorship, and business apostleship. The man is none other than Doctor Shingi Munyeza. So, Dr. Muneza, we want to talk about your business career. We want to talk about Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe's economy, what went wrong with Zimbabwe's economy, your possible solutions to the Zimbabwean economy. So, before we get into detail, I want to our viewers to know, take us through your business career.
Oh, well, thanks, Makanaka. My business career starts off as I left high school. I went to do my articles with Arthur Young and Company in those days, 1986, and then finished my degree with Muneza, became an accountant, but I wasn't cut for being an accountant, so moved into marketing and advertising. In fact, before I went into there, I was part of the listing committee or executive team for Qualcomm today, Qualcomm Limited. After doing that, I was fed up with accounting because I'd done the best I could. And then went into advertising and marketing with CM&A, became an executive director there. We formed our own advertising agency. That's where my entrepreneurial flair began to manifest. But moved on to head the Cresta Group. Whilst I was there, an opportunity for a management buyout for Zimsan, which became African Sun, arose, and I put together a consortia, which took over 40% of Zimsan at that time, turned it around, unbundled the assets, and formed Dawn Properties and listed that. Went regional and into the African region, operated in Nigeria, Ghana, Botswana, Mozambique, and South Africa. Mm-hmm. After that, felt that I'd done a bit that I could do, sold out my stake, and went into other entrepreneurial initiatives that I've been dreaming of for many years. One is renewable energy.
So you're saying that you sold out. What happened? What's the reason behind you?
I wanted to invest in other businesses because I felt that the tourism in Africa was always going to be a cyclical business. Sometimes it's affected by the politics. Sometimes it's affected by the safety issues globally. Like right now with COVID-19. So tourism is on its belly. And it was always going to be cyclical. So I needed something that is in the next, what I termed then the next unicorns into business. So I went into cloud computing, fintech, went into e-commerce, renewable energies, and entrepreneurship incubation, because as an entrepreneur, I want to raise new entrepreneurs as well. Mm-hmm. So those have become my core businesses now. Mm-hmm. Still did a bit of franchising into restaurants, which really I scaled back on, and actually sold the restaurants in Zim. I still have restaurants in South Africa.
Okay, so let's take a look at something which you've just raised, which caught my attention. That when you sold out, when you went out from the tourism sector, you were trying to venture into something new. Let's talk about the Zimbabwean economy. You being in the business world, what can we say what went wrong with the Zimbabwean economy?
Well, fundamentally what went wrong with the Zimbabwean economy is every economy has to have the clear leadership and clear vision. The Zimbabwean economy over the past 40 years has lacked a visionary around that economy. We haven't got around exactly mapping out that this is the direction and these are the milestones in order to grow this economy. So it lacked a clear vision and a visionary for it. And then it also lacked leadership. for anything of this nature, the way we are blessed with mineral resources, natural resources, skills, manpower, even our geographical location, it's an easy thing to deal with the Zimbabwean economy, but it lacked leadership. And that leadership has been translated into policy inconsistency. Mm-hmm. So that's what also went wrong. The policy inconsistent because of that lack of leadership and that lack of competent leadership.
Mm-hmm. Let me get you to. You're talking about policy consistency, and you're talking about leadership. What do you feel about our economy in the hands of the current finance minister, Mtuli, and also the RBZ governor, Dr. John Munguja?
What is important is that an economy is not based on an individual, the whole ecosystem. So the executive play a collective role in moving the economy forward. So perhaps people think that the only ministry that should push the economy forward is the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning. No, there is agriculture, there is industry, there is mining. So all those sectors of our economy have to also be led well through the executive. But the most primary issue is to make sure that there is a policy framework that is consistent. But we haven't had that. So it doesn't matter whether you put in somebody who is good in this ministry or that ministry, but it is how the whole leadership comes together to move us forward. So collectively, there's been a dearth of leadership for our economy, and therefore we are where we are today.
Okay, so looking at that, what are the key areas which you may say that these areas, if we work with them, we can kickstart our economy?
Well, there's polarity. See, our economy is also, whilst you lack the leadership to move us forward, but that leadership primarily has to bring everybody together. We've been a nation at war, even though it's not like we've been shooting each other, but it's like we've been in a civil war for 20 years. I mean, the semblance of our infrastructure and the semblance of our economic sectors appear as if we've been in a civil war. So it means that we are at war with one another. And that requires a certain type of leadership to bring everybody together to a place of a social contract. A social contract allows the citizenry to work together in harmony for a common good. That means that we have been polarized and toxic. So even when a good thing is being propelled with this side, that side will always oppose. So we've got Team A and Team B in Zimbabwe. And whatever Team B does, Team A doesn't like. Whatever Team B does, Team A doesn't like it either. So we are always at war. So you cannot build an economy when you're always in contestation. And you are not in harmony or unity. So in order to progress, we've got to have internal harmony or internal unity. And unity does not mean that we must always agree on everything. It means that there must be, in essentials, we must always unite. Non-essentials, we must allow liberty. But in everything, we must have charity, we must bind each other together. And that's the essence of a social contract. The only time that we had such, which was probably not even spelled out, was during the GNU period, when there was no need to have contestations. Everybody was united for a common cause. So we had some progress in that era because there was no contestation.
Okay, so are you saying that GNU would be good for Zimbabwe? You're saying that during the GNU, people united, people were fighting for the common good. So are you of the GNU?
No, I don't necessarily. GNU had its own misgivings and also had its own weaknesses because it was actually just a GNU between two main political parties. It wasn't holistic, but it kind of got us together so that the two, Team A and Team B, were not fighting. Now, the moment that GNU ended, Team A and Team B began to fight again. and then we progress there. So it is not so much a journey. For me, it is about bringing national discourse or dialogue that brings everybody to the table for a common cause. However you define it, it must be inclusive. So I am of the dialogue. I come from the school of dialogue to bring all parties to the table.
Okay, looking at that, you are talking of unity, you are talking of a common cause. There are upcoming demonstrations planned for the 31st of July where people, citizens, are not happy with the way government is handling issues. People are starving, people are jobless, people are... There's a crisis, there's a disaster in Zimbabwe, and there have been social media reports that Doctor Shingi Munyeza is working with the army behind these demonstrations. Can you clarify on that?
Well, I would like to dismiss speculations. I'm just an ordinary citizen who has a passion to see justice and prosperity in our nation. And I think that what has happened over the years is that when one speaks out, they are always labeled. But elsewhere in the world, you are allowed to speak out for what is good, what is just, what is right. And I also come from the church background where we want what is best for everyone. So I'm looking for a common good. The things you've described, they're worrying for some of us who come from the church, because the church ends up getting laden with counseling, providing for all the bad leadership by politicians and government, and then we are told to carry the weight. So what we need to do is to push back so that we get better leadership. So in that, citizens, according to our constitution, citizens are allowed to voice their concern, to voice their needs, to actually demonstrate. It's enshrined in our constitution. So they should be allowed. Yes. So it doesn't have to be labeled to an individual. Now, if people are going to be locked in their homes and there is no food, it means that the state has failed to provide for its citizens. The state might also, with COVID-19 coming in, it means also the state has failed to protect its citizens. Look at the state of our hospitals and the spiking in our infections and death out of from COVID. And now people have no food. We've got a drought, of course, but look at the corruption that is now around COVID monies and so on. It means that there is no real traction forward and people are suffering. And I cannot stand here and say, look, well, let's all keep quiet and see where this goes. Okay. So as a citizen, I'm allowed to voice that. However, people want to have a narrative of where my voice comes from. My voice primarily comes from the church.
All right. Dr. Munyeza, this is a whole new dimension you're actually giving me. You are a member of the Presidential Advisory Council, and indeed you're not the spokesperson, but you belonging to that council. Do you see any fruitful outcome from that council, which then advises the authority on these issues you are raising?
I'm not a spokesperson for PAC, and I will not comment on PAC. The only spokesperson for PAC is the president himself.
But you're working with him. Do you see yourself moving in the positive direction? I'm not asking you to say much, but
I cannot even tell you whether I see it or I don't see it.
Okay, so you being part of the Presidential Advisory Council, are you adding any value?
I cannot even tell you whether we are adding value or we are not adding value. That process is in its own league. I'm here to talk to you about what me as a citizen sees in the general discourse where economy is, our society is at, the poverty that we see, the pain that we see, and the lack of progress that I see. And I don't talk as a member of any organization. The only place I can say is that because I'm a pastor, I can talk from the basis of where the church sees this thing. And I'm still not a spokesperson for the church, but I'm talking as a pastor. I can talk as a businessman because I operate businesses here and abroad. Mm-hmm. And I can see exactly where our mess is.
Okay, so having said that, at what rate do you see the Zimbabwean economy recovering?
It won't recover until there is clear leadership. it's getting worse. And I did say this 3 months ago, that we're facing a perfect storm. And people didn't believe that, but we are here. The next 3 weeks, few weeks, our situation gets worse. You got our borders closed, you got no food, you got a disease on your door, and you got an economy that is collapsing and that is lacking leadership and traction forward. Definitely, it's going to get worse before it even gets any better.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Muneza, for those words. It has been a pleasure to have you on the program. To all our viewers, thank you for tuning in into Business Brief. For more stories, visit our website, which is www.newzimbabwe.com. Follow us on our Facebook page, on Instagram, as well as on Twitter.